Pray for the ones that aren't with us, Tyler and Matthew, Brady, and the Clark kids. Just be with each one. That right there is one of my favorite songs. That's a real challenging song and really stirs my heart to sing it. But today we're going to be looking at something that I went through this week. So, just can sit back and enjoy what the Lord brought. But really got a blessing from Tyler Clark and Jason morning. And, I'm not a very good public speaker, so I got to write down most everything I say. And I love it when the Lord has other people that are before me just say pretty much something that I had written down. So it gives me peace knowing that this is what the Lord has and not what I would have. But I've thought about using like Jimmy Dean bacon or some one day and see if the Lord uses that. But then the Lord wouldn't be talking, that'd be me. So, um, but anyway, had a bad day at work this week and involving someone I work with. And in the heat of the moment, my mind, shuffles through a bunch of these scenarios and things that could happen if I were to open my mouth and, thinking of what I should do, trying to anticipate how I think they'll react to it. And should I make a big deal out of this or just and call them out on it? And, my mind went in a million different directions in just a matter of seconds, it seemed like it. And when we're pushed past the limit that we think we can take, our mind does that. But the Lord brought to my attention on how I should react and how I wanted to react would hurt my testimony and the cause of Christ. So I calmly went back to my office without reacting and closed the door and took me a nap. So that seemed to help out a lot. And the Lord even was gracious to give me the next day off. I was in the hospital waiting room, but I was still off. Like Jason said this morning, it's just hard to do nothing sometimes. And now every time I see that person, it's obvious that he goes out of his way to talk to me when before we'd only conversed if we had nothing, as if we needed something. And not only does he talk to me, he goes over the top trying to be nice to me. And if I had reacted the way I would have wanted to, things would have only escalated. Nothing would have gotten better. So I give honor and glory to the Lord. And when Matthew asked me to give a lesson, I felt led to share that with you all and what I learned in that situation. And started studying and listening to sermons, trying to find out what the Lord would have for us today. And each thing I read and heard led me to a thought on just because a door in life is open doesn't mean it's the one I need to walk through. During my bad day at work, I would have been right in the world's eyes on how I wanted to react, and the devil had that door wide open for me to walk through. But the Bible tells me to be as harmless as a dove. And you hear people say, well, when Jesus was mad, he turned over the tables in the temple. And too many times I've heard in my life the phrase from elders, do what I say, not what I do. And Matthew 10:16 is where Jesus tells us here that, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents, as harmless as doves. And I haven't seen any doves turn over any tables lately. But I wanted to look today at just because the door is open to you, you have the opportunity to do this thing. You feel like this is the appropriate thing to do, that this has to be God setting this up in my life. Does this line up with the Bible? The devil can be that whisper in your ear, telling you like he told Eve in the garden, now did God really say this or that? Like Tyler brought out this morning, I need to know the Bible better than the devil. And he can twist God's words just as he did there in the Garden of Eden. Because I can make the Bible say whatever I wanted to on my own anyway, if I pick and choose verses and take them out of context. But if we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 24. We all know the story here, and Saul is chasing David to kill him. Saul tries many times to kill David, but Saul can't do anything to change the word of the Lord. when Samuel anointed David as king and tells him he's going to rule Israel, that's as good as done. Now, I've heard controversy on whether or not Saul was saved. From what I found in the Bible, he was. If you turn over just a couple chapters to chapter 28, Samuel has passed away back in chapter 25. And in verse 7 of chapter 28, Saul is looking for a wizard woman that can talk to spirits because he's wanting to talk to Samuel. And Saul disguises himself because in verse 9, she tells that these wizards and people with familiar spirits were put to death by King Saul. So Saul swore to her in verse 10, I believe verse 10, that no harm would come to her. So she brings up the spirit of Samuel. And in verse 12, when she sees the spirit, she cried with a loud voice. And how could a spirit talker, someone who does this every day for a living, why would this startle her? And she cried with a loud voice. And she sees, she's supposed to see them all the time, supposedly. Probably because this is the first time in all her day-to-day customers, she's never actually had a spirit show up. But this time there was actually a spirit there. And Saul talked to Samuel. And Samuel gives Saul some good news and some bad news. And we'll read verse 19, which is what I wanted to read. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hands of the Philistines. Tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. And the Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. So the good news is Israel is going to win against the Philistines, but the bad news is you and your sons are going to die. And you can ask, how do you get that Saul was saved out of that? Because Samuel said that him and his sons would be with him. Samuel's in paradise or Abraham's bosom. But we see that, so we set forth that we see here that a saved man is chasing another saved man all over the country with such hate that he wants to kill him. And having tried and almost succeeded, but God kept David safe. And back in chapter 24 is where we're going to read. Thought about having y'all stand like Brother Cantu does, but we're going to read the whole chapter. I didn't think that'd be very nice. 1 Samuel 24, start reading verse 1. And it came to pass when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way. There was a cave. Saul went in and cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the side of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily. It came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also rose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, My lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. David said to Saul, Wherefore hast thou men's words, saying, Behold, David speaketh thy hurt. Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord hath delivered thee into mine hand in the cave. And some bade me kill thee, but mine eye spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth mine hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord anointed. Moreover, my father, see ye the skirt of thy robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is nothing, neither evil nor transgression in mine hand, and I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the Proverbs of the ancient, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the King of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. It came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day that thou hast dwelt well with me, forasmuch as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hand, thou killedst me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Therefore the Lord reward thee good, for thou hast done unto me this day. And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king. The kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord, thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware unto Saul, and Saul went home. But David and his men gat them up into the hold. Whether David liked it or not, Saul was still king. He was God's anointed. If David had taken matters into his own hand, what different outcome things would have been. Imagine trying to lead a country when you just got done killing the king that so many people were following. I'm sure word spread like a wildfire that David had the chance to end it all, but didn't, and nobody would have blamed him had he killed Saul. The opportunity was there, the door was open, and what chances was it that Saul would be resting in the very cave that David and his men were hiding in? This could have been, David could have seen this as a sign from God that God had set this up just for him. But instead of hearing King Saul was killed by David, the people heard of a man showing an unnatural amount of grace by following the Lord. And how that much had changed the hearts of Saul, the followers of Saul, rather. When God was done with Saul, when God was done with Saul being king, God would remove him, not David. Time and time again, we see God allowing nations or using nations to chasten Israel, to bring them back to him. But then we see God punishing those same nations for attacking his people. Turn over to Judges. You can hold your finger here. Judges chapter 3. Judges chapter 3. I'm just going to read one verse here. Judges chapter 3 and verse 1. Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel had not known all the wars of Canaan. So we see here that the Lord left nations to prove Israel, to make them better for the Lord. So why would David be any different from these nations if he rose up against God's anointed? We see back in Genesis 12:3 that God says, I'll bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee. So what would cause David to think that he would be any different from touching God's anointed? We're going to read over in 1 Samuel 26. So, of course, we just read that David let Saul go, and Saul was very remorseful and thankful to David, and he said, you're a better man than me, pretty much. And we're going to continue reading in 1 Samuel chapter 26 here. And the Ziphites came unto Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself in the hill of Zechariah, which is before Jeshimon. Then Saul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. Saul pitched in the hill of Hakliah, which is before Jeshimon by the way. But David abode in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. David therefore sent out spies, and understood that Saul was come in very deed. And David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched. And David beheld the place where Saul lay, and Abner the son of Ner, the captain of his host, and Saul lay in the trench. The people pitched around about him. Then answered David and said to Achmeiah the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, brother of Joab, saying, who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster, which that's definition of that is head, I guess, from what I found. But Abner and the people lay around about him. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day. Now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, with the spear, even to the earth at once, and I will not smite him a second time. David said to Abishai, destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? David said, furthermore, as the Lord liveth, the Lord shall smite him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall descend into battle and perish. The Lord forbid that I should stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed. But I pray thee, take thou now the spear that is at his bolster, and the cruse of oil, and let us go, or cruse of water, and let us go. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they gat them away, and no man saw it, nor knew it, neither awaked, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord was fallen upon them. Then David went over to the other side and stood on the top of a hill far off, a great place being between them. And David cried to the people and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, answer thou not, Abner. Then Abner answered and said, who art thou that criest to the king? David said to Abner, art not thou a valiant man? And who is like unto thee in Israel? Wherefore then hast thou not kept thy lord the king? For there came one of the people in to destroy the king of thy lord. This thing is not good that thou hast done. As the Lord liveth, ye are worthy to die, because ye have not kept your master the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the cruse of water that was at his bolster. And Saul knew David's voice, and said, is this thy voice, my son David? David said, it is my voice, my lord, O king. And he said, wherefore doth my lord this pursue after his servant? For what have I done? For what evil is in mine hand? Now therefore I pray thee, let my lord the king hear the words of his servant. If the Lord have stirred thee up against me, let him accept an offering. But if they be the children of men, cursed be they before the Lord. For they have driven me out this day from abiding in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, go serve other gods. Now therefore let not my blood fall to the earth before the face of the Lord. For the king of Israel is come out to seek a flea, as when he doth hunt a prodige in the mountains. Then said Saul, I have sinned, return my son David, for I will no more do thee harm, because my soul was precious in thine eyes this day. Behold, I have played the fool, and have erred exceedingly. David answered and said, behold, the king's spear, and let one of the young men come over and fetch it. That the Lord render to every man his righteousness. and his faithfulness, for the Lord delivered thee into mine hand today. But I would not stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed. And behold, as thy life was much set by this day in mine eyes, so let my life be much set by in the eyes of the Lord. Let him deliver me out of all tribulation. And Saul said to David, Blessed be thou, my son David. Thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt still prevail. So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. So after we see Saul repent in chapter 24, he still can't stop chasing David. Again, the opportunity was there. The Lord caused a deep sleep to fall on all the people, that nobody was going to wake up. David could have killed Saul and been home free, sleeping in the palace that night as the new king of Israel. But instead, the news headlines read, David spares Saul's life again. As the men of Saul's camp think on how they keep chasing David to kill him, probably getting tired of chasing him, and they hear twice now that he had a chance to kill the man hunting him for no reason. They probably were scratching their heads or bolsters, as we saw there many times. David was a man after God's own heart, and it shows here in these two chapters. The devil can trick us into thinking what we are doing is right and that it's fair and that it's what God wants us to do. But in reading and studying his word, the right thing to do isn't always the easiest path to take. I'll never forget Brother Old was standing up here, and he said, a plan without God is a scheme. And that's something that stuck with me ever since he said it. And it holds true then and it holds true now, that if God's not in it, it won't prosper. In closing, we'll look at one more verse in Matthew chapter 7. Doing the right thing isn't easy. Pride gets in the way more times than not. But in Matthew chapter 7, start reading in verse 13. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in therein. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth into life, and few there be that find it. Jesus says here the right way to go is straight and narrow. Not many people can walk it without having the Lord, or no one can walk it without having the Lord. So hope you all got a blessing out of it. It's what the Lord laid on my heart. I asked y'all to pray for me to be a better servant of the Lord and have him work, allow him to work more in my life instead of fighting against the pricks. Brother Tyler, you come.
Sorry. Sorry, Nathan. I was so wrapped up in your message, I didn't think of an invitation. Let's say number 236. Number 236. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed.
answers. I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Brother Roger, would you lead us in a word of prayer and ask blessing on the food?
Father, we thank you for the day. Thank you for the word today. Lord, we pray that you use it in our hearts and our lives to live more for you, Lord. Pray for the lost. Pray for our kids, our grandkids, the ones in this church that are lost, their families. Have mercy there, Lord. We pray for those that are sick. Lord, you know all the needs there. Be a thankful today. Keep back for our lives. We just pray, Lord, you give her their family grace. Be with them. Lord, please. Thank you again for today. Be with the church. Help us, Lord. We look to you, support each other. Just thank you for that. His brother, hey, as he comes this way this afternoon, protect him. Thank you for his business over time. Lord, we pray that you be with us. We have things that we need to take care of with our family. I pray that you be with me, Lord. Give me the right things to say. Again, we pray for Terry, that you intervene in her life. We know you can. We pray that God have mercy there. Again, we thank you for everything. We thank you for the food that we're about to eat.